and the key way of distinguishing between behaviours that serve a sensory function and behaviours that are more to do with escape, getting some kind of social contact, getting access to something more tangible, is that the former, the sensory behaviours, don't really require input from another human.
In terms of functions, I know in behavioural analysis, a very, the sort of entry level behavioural functional analysis would be looking at behaviours using the acronym of SEAT, wouldn't it? All behaviours serve one of four functions. They would either serve as a sensory for a person. It might form as some means of escape. It might be to gain attention as the A, or it might actually give them a tangible benefit. Or it might be one or more of those, but generally there is a predominant function. And I guess from the example you gave about the students that were self-harming, and it was to overcome their anxieties. I mean, that to me very much sounds like the function of their behaviour was very much sensory based. It was internalized pain, if you like. It was internalized anxiety. So to dissipate that, they were doing something else to take away the mental anxiety by causing physical pain. I'm guessing that would be sort of correct.
Yes, that's how that would be interpreted. That's right. And the key way of distinguishing between behaviours that serve a sensory function and behaviours that are more to do with escape, getting some kind of social contact, getting access to something more tangible, is that the former, the sensory behaviours, don't really require input from another human. They're things that just happen automatically. And there are lots of socially acceptable behaviours that fall into this category. Having something nice to eat. If you have an itch, scratching it. These are behaviours. Obviously lead to a change in levels of sensory stimulation that are desirable. And this came out of a lot of work with people with learning disabilities, but equally it can be applied to the behaviour of all humans. So you used the example of escape, so an escape or avoidance function. Now that's something that we can all relate to. So how many times have we been at a party that we just wanted to leave as soon as possible, and what do? Make an excuse, say we've got to get up in the morning to take the dog for a walk. The function of our behaviour in that context is escape. The function of our behaviour, if we're calling someone on the phone for a chat, just to talk with a friend, is attention, or to get some kind of social contact. So it can be an interesting way of figuring out what makes us or other people tick.
And I guess the premise of talking about fundamental attribution bias on this call, or attribution bias on this call, was about how to enhance relationships. And I'm guessing that if we can then take this away and be aware of it, and we can be aware of why other people might have the reactions they do if we have an argument with our wife or our husband or our partner, for example, or with a friend or with a colleague at work that might seem overly anxious, rather than just passing it off as, oh, they're just in a bad mood, they're just having a bad day. We can actually start to think about the reasoning of why they might be presenting how they are, and have those more meaningful and authentic interactions. Because we live in a world now where there was a great emphasis on be kind, being more mindful. Although you probably wouldn't know that if you went on Twitter nowadays, which just seems to be a vacuum, a echo chamber for people to argue with each other. But really, as human beings, we do want to have authentic and real interactions with others. And I'm guessing that if we can understand others better, Nick, that's going to lead to deeper and more meaningful relationships.
Yeah, and I think it's a really nice way of looking at it. So if we've talked a lot in these sessions about how to change our behavior for the better. And we talked also about how it's far more meaningful, it's far more likely to be successful if we change our behavior in a way that's consistent with our values. So kindness, being kind, is a value that quite a lot of us would hold. And by becoming more aware of fundamental attribution bias, and by putting in place some strategies for having more meaningful interactions with people, I would argue there that that's a fantastic way of actually living our lives in a way that's consistent with the value of kindness and having meaningful relationships. So if we thinking about how we might actually achieve that in practical behavioral terms, you might be someone who decides, okay, this is what I want. I want to think the best of people. I want to have meaningful interactions with them. And it might relate to specific people. It might be a partner. And we know that intention alone is not enough. So we might want to put that down on a piece of paper, actually make that commitment. So what I'm going to do when I'm speaking with people, I'm going to remind myself that they are surrounded by a variety of different contexts throughout their day and throughout their week. So there are things that are going on for them biologically. There are things that are going on for them mentally. They may have things that are worrying them. They may have had a 4-hour journey to get to the place where I'm meeting them now, and they might be in a very bad mood. So all these things that are going on. And also, I'm going to be aware of the thoughts that could go through my mind that might feed in to those biases. And I'm just going to be aware of all that. And by doing that, that's going to help me actually just be present in the moment and deal with the here and now of this discussion, rather than bringing all of these potentially unhelpful thoughts to bear.
So, it really is around emotional intelligence, isn't it? It's about being aware. And it is, I mean, all of these videos, Nick, all of the videos with yourself and with the other contributors, they're all around the self-awareness, because, change starts with an individual, doesn't it? Without the individual taking ownership, taking agency, and taking their own life into their own control, we can't then expect others to change as well. So, it really is taking that ownership ourselves. So Nick, thank you so much for your time on these videos. I really appreciate it. I know the people watching do as well. Thank you very much. And as we say to all of our viewers at the end of every video, go out and make your life a masterpiece. Go out and execute, my friends, and we will see you next time on the next video that we do. Thank you. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.